right, everybody, here we go. And we've got an incredible episode for you today. My name is Sam. I am the co-host of EST, the show that you just happened to be listening to. So I don't know if you clicked here by accident or if you clicked on this intentionally, but I ask that you stay because I've got some really good things to say. And the reason that I'm able to say that is because we have a guest on the show that I respect a ton. Boyd Pelley is the co-founder of Churchteams, also a sponsor of the show. The reason that you are able to listen to this for free is because of this man right here. Welcome back to the show, Boyd.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. It's always fun to be here. And it's a privilege to help you make this thing happen to everybody, for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got a growing audience, and it's been fun to just get into contact with some of you who are listeners. And Josh, my other co-host, who's usually here, he's on vacation. And he just said, you know what? I think I'm just going to take the week off. So I don't know how you feel about that, but you know, the lazy bum took a vacation. So we'll let him off the hook this one time. But no, Boyd's on the show, and Boyd's got an incredible company that he runs called Churchteams. And I love their story. I love the resources that they offer. You've heard us talk about them on every episode where, you know, he's got a good offer for churches. You can go to est.church to check it out. It's a scalable system. He's got price points that are available for every church. Really, if it involves software or church management software systems, he has a solution for you. So texting or database management or check-in or giving, he can do it all. So we do have an offer for 2 months free, so it's really no risk. Go to est.church to check that out. But I also want to bring him on the show because we're going to be talking about like the best way to use technology to communicate with your church. Which Boyd is the subject matter expert on this. There is literally nobody better on this subject than him. So Boyd, you were telling me a little bit before we started recording just about the progression of your company. I'd like to hear, because I stopped you and I said, don't say any more because I want our audience to hear this. So I'll let you continue your point that we were discussing and tell our audience a little bit about Churchteams and kind of the progression that your company's made.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like this discipleship pastor, church administrator, right? When we started Churchteams as a way to help churches manage small groups, especially ones that were decentralized, but later on it grew. We coined the term small group software in 2000, and that's how it grew. But in 2008, we knew that we needed to build on that to become a full church management system. So we started building out all the rest of the features that you just talked about, right? All the membership and the financial, all of the kind of stuff you got to do in building contributions, all the rest of it, check-ins, volunteers, all of that. And feel like that was another 8-year season for us to build out, get caught up on there. But I was thinking about this last month or so, how each of those built towards kind of a third stage that we're in now, and that's more of a church communication software. Now, we built the church management software around groups, but the church communication software needs to be built around church management tools because you want to use all those different, all the different information you have to be able to communicate with people by email, by text, connecting with people on the website, all of the above. Now with an app, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. It's very difficult to manage your church if you can't communicate with your church.
Right.
And your systems were originally built, you know, for management, which makes sense. It's church management software.
Right.
But what has become, I mean, you're becoming a communication company too, along with the management side. And if you are a pastor listening to this, this is not just business advice. This is something that you need to think about as you're trying to shepherd your church. I hear it all the time. I hear it at my own church. I didn't know about that. I didn't hear that. Why didn't you tell me? One of the hardest things for me as a pastor, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this if you're a church leader or a pastor, one of the hardest things for me is not communication. I know how to communicate. Some will say, that they're better preachers than me and they're better communicators than me. And sure, fair enough. But I have a pretty good idea how to communicate with my church. The hardest thing for me is who to communicate with first, because I can't talk and I can't communicate faster than people can text everyone. So you can sit in a meeting and say something, and then people can text their friends, and it's out before you even have a chance to finish the conversation. So, Boyd, help us through this. You know, you do communication. Just explain a little bit about, how texting works.
Yeah, let me do that. So one thing I would just add to what you said is discipleship is about relationships. And relationships are always about communication. Always about communication. So that's why I think that all of that makes some sense. But the way people communicate has changed. It's a lot, right? Because of texting. And so we recognize a number of years on the texting side that people love to text. And so we built out the text part of our software so that people would be able to text to give. That was really what started it. And that's been around quite a long time. But we recognize that as a really unique way for somebody to interact with a database. They can just text a keyword or text and they get a link back and they do what they need to do. So they don't have to create an account or anything like that. It's all driven by texting, and that phone number hits a database and it's like logging in essentially, right? So we built that, and for years and years I promoted, hey, text the word check to check in, text the word connect to fill out your digital connection card. You're live streaming, just text the church office number, the word connect, and do that. And then that would set up an automated workflow, things like that. And so for years, I had really promoted text to church, but I kept hearing a little bit about, or not a little bit, but I kept hearing people wanted an app. And so we began thinking through, okay, what's the relationship between using something like text and an app? And which one would benefit who in our church the most, right? So texting is an app that everybody already has on their phone. So the benefit of that is you're not asking them to download anything or to learn how to do anything different. They already know. They use it every day. They text all the time. And nowadays, with all the businesses and everybody that's using text, they're familiar with it. So why wouldn't a church want to be able to text? And we've added a lot to that where people can chat and just share a prayer request by text, chat in a prayer request, things like that. But there was still this nagging thing about an app. So we began investigating it, looking at to see how people were actually using apps. And that's kind of what led us into some changes that we've been able to release the last couple months with an app.
All right. So you kind of were understated there, but you have a new resource, right? So you've got this.
That was the lead in, right?
No. You've got a new app. So
yes.
I know our listeners have been tuning into the church management software side of things, and people can contact you for that. But tell us about this app, because it's definitely something on my radar. It's something that I think churches should consider. I've got a website. Why do I need an app? Well, why don't I? Okay, let me ask that question. So, I've got a website. Why do I need an app, Boyd?
That's great. That's exactly the question. So here was my thought as we were investigating this whole thing about an app. We looked at the different app companies and different things that were trying to promote an app as an outreach tool. Well, I think that's going to be a little hard for somebody to go to the Apple store to learn about your church and download something. That I always struggled with that concept that people are going to do that. So your website is that, because what happens is if somebody's thinking about a church, young couple or somebody, they're just going to get on Google Maps, church near me, and open it up. And by the way, anybody on the SEO side, go to Maps and just get 10, 15, 20 people to give you 5-star ratings on there. It's the easiest SEO you can do.
Yeah.
Is on a map, right? You know that.
I'm just waiting for somebody to name their church Near Me.
There is a perfect church. I saw a church named Perfect Church one time in Atlanta. Anyway, that's a total aside. Sorry, Sam. But church near me. Okay, it could be, and then they pop up as number one on SEO. I get that. So they do that, and then what are they going to look at? They're going to click, and they're going to go to your website. So honestly, your website is like your drive-by. It's where people are going to go. They're going to learn about it. And so as we looked at apps, it just made a ton of sense to me. The way that people were using it was more like volunteers or small group leaders or people committed to wanting to do check-in. That's where the heavy lifting that apps were doing for churches were more on that side. And so what I did in thinking about this and trying to communicate it is look at that whole assimilation process from people who not even aware of your church, all the way from an awareness to being a guest, to being a regular attender, to being a member, a volunteer, or a leader in your church. And we know what that assimilation process looks like. You do a lot on that, Sam. You help people go through that process a lot. But as you look at each phase of that assimilation, what tools are people at that phase most likely going to want to use to interact with your church? So people that
really
see
good
what
point.
I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about your church. I'm brand new to town. I just moved here yesterday, and Sunday's in 2 days, and me and my family are churchgoers. We're not going to interact with your church via an app, right? I mean,
No, right.
You don't even know the church. But you are going to go to Google Maps and you're going to search church near me. So that's
Right.
That's kind of the first phase, that first touch point, that front door, whatever you want to call it. But then we move into, okay, now I know about your church. I may have even filled out a guest card because I came to your church. What's that next?
Yes.
How should you be communicating with somebody like that?
So, like, I'm a guest. I come to your church for the first time, right? And if I come, and you're telling me go download an app to attend this event or whatever, I'm thinking I already have 95 apps on my phone. Okay, I am over apped right now, and I'm not yet that committed to you yet. I just know I haven't even met you. We just came. This is our first time, second time, third time, something like that. I'm not quite there yet. I like the website. I like being able to go there. But then you throw this phone number up, and it's your church office number, and you just say, text the word marriage to go to the marriage conference. Well, I can do that. I'm not investing anything on my phone or time because I already do that. So it's at that phase, kind of that guest to attender phase, that kind of bridges the gap, I think, between the website and the use of an actual app. Because if I use text, then I can engage that church. It helps bridge the gap between those other two features. And some people may never want to have an app download it, so they'll just use the text. But your regulars, when they get to the member side of things, and then they're in a volunteer especially, that was really a big part of the catalyst for us, was the volunteer side of developing the app. Was so somebody could go and they could block out their schedule. They could see when they're scheduled to serve. If they need to get a sub, they can click on a link and be able to get the sub. All of that. That's super helpful for the volunteer. It's really great to be able to have an app there. So that's kind of how we viewed it. And so I looked up, just wanted to see if there was any research around this. Okay. So I thought, is there any research about how people use apps? There is. And one of the things that I found was churches average American has about 80 apps on their phone. So about 80 is the number. So what that means is my church has to get into the top 80. Now, 80 includes my bank. It includes my health thing. It includes texting. It includes email. It includes all those standard ones. It includes all the restaurants. It has to include Chick-fil-A for sure, So I've got all these apps already. So I got to get in the top 80. People have 80 on their phone. The research says the average average smartphone owner uses about 30 apps per month, and sometimes it's only be once or twice a month. Just when I happen to go by that restaurant or whatever, they use that. But most people only use 9 to 10 apps a day. So where in the adoption process are you going to have to be? How committed are they going to have to be to download the app to be one of the 80? Then, how committed are they going to be to use it once or twice a month? That's where I think the member and the volunteer really kicks in, because they do want to check their volunteer schedule. They need to be able to update that information, or maybe they want to go in to give and things like that as well. Yeah, and so, to be your volunteers, that they need the app, they like the app, they want to go there maybe to give, maybe there's a resource that you put in there, maybe somebody jumps in there to live stream, they can't go regularly, so that week they jump in to go click the link to go to your live stream or whatever you want on that. That would be the 30, and I see that as probably mostly maybe some attenders, certainly members and volunteers, they would jump in on the app, and really it's probably only going to be your staff that it's ever going to make it to the top 8 or 9 apps that they use every day. But your staff will. That's the cool thing about it. It's going to really empower them.
While you were talking, I just had to know, because you said that the average person has about 80 apps on their phone, right? Mm-hmm. Total. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I am significantly above average, Boyd.
Well, we knew that. That's not news.
I have 160 apps on my phone.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You're equal to 2 of us, but that's okay.
I have 100 and it was right. It was exactly 160. So I feel quite superior right now. I don't know if I should though. All right. So this is a really good point for our listeners, because, when you're thinking about software solutions and technology and the things that you need but can be a bit intimidating, let's just be real.
Yeah.
If you've never done texting in your church, just that process of, man, I know I should do this, but I feel like I may seem like an idiot if I try to get started on this. One, Churchteams can walk you through all that. So you have a partner in Churchteams that cares about your church, and even if you don't know anything about this stuff, they can help get you set up on everything. But the bigger picture here is there's no one piece of technology that is going to be able to solve all of your communication issues. You can't just use text. You can't just use email. You can't just rely on your website. All of those things are important, but as people get more engaged in your church, the way that they will communicate is differently technologically, and they will want, a better way to find out what they need in the church. So yeah, if you're a brand new person, you're just going to the website. You're just kind of clicking around. Oh, let's watch a sermon. But if you're a volunteer and you've been at the church 5, 10, 15 years, you really do want to know, like, hey, am I serving at the 9 o'clock service? And you want to be able to check that out. And that's one thing I love about what you do, is you not only help churches that may not know a whole lot about this to get set up, but you also provide a full slate of technological solutions that can help people at any point along the way. So this is something that I think is very important for all of us to realize, myself included. Texting a guest, sure, but getting everyone in a group text to send them the schedule, the worship schedule, probably not a good idea. But it's going to be a very frustrating thing for your volunteers. You need something like an app, which, by the way, let's put a link in the show notes. You've got a brand new app that's out. I have not even seen this thing yet. It's that new. So,
yes, right.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about this new app?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link to put in the show notes so that people can click on the link, fill out a form to get in there and take a look at it, and you'll do it on your phone. Your temptation is going to do it on the computer. You got to do it on the phone, because then I'm going to have you do some text to see text to church in order to connect with the app. And once you're there, you'll be able to get in there and you can see all the different features that you can do, whether it's you can see what it looks like to give, groups that you're in. You should be in at least one group even there, groups that are available, events. You won't be able to see follow-up assignments because you won't have any. But if I'm supposed to follow up that new guest or that new person to our church who lives 1 block over from my house, I see that note right there. And it reminds me of that. And there's some accountability. So pieces like that, events, other resources, like a link to your sermon notes or whatever, your sermon archives is what I meant, or anything else that's in there too. My ability to manage the notifications. And it's got a really nice looking UI because it's brand new. And so we're really excited about that.
What's UI?
UI stands for user interface, and it means look and feel of the. It's
Gotcha.
really crisp. It's clean. It's easy to use. All of that's in there. So
You
Yep.
tech guys are so savvy with all of your acronyms.
well, you know how that goes. You're right. That's why. Well, no, that's why we're the worst at really helping everybody use the software. We can help in general, but you need people who just love people to help others really use the tool, right? Because
I love what you're doing, and I love that
Yeah.
you're always innovating at Churchteams.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing about what you do is you're constantly asking the question, how can we serve the church better through technology? So I do encourage all of our listeners to go check out this new app. Again, we'll put a link in the show notes, and go check it out. It could revolutionize how you communicate with your church.
Well, that's exactly right, Sam. And we can help even on the website side. We don't do website. Like you said, we don't do everything. So we don't do website. We have companies that do that. But we put a link on there so people can do a registration from the website. It goes right into the database. So we can show you all along the way, every little piece of it. That's really been our goal.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Boyd, for coming on the show, talking a little bit about technology. Again, the link will be in the show notes for the app, but you can always go to est.church. Real easy to remember. We've got a free offer there. Their contact information is there as well. There's a form to fill out if you want to contact Boyd at Churchteams. You go to est.church. We also want to thank our new sponsor. We're really excited about Upward sponsoring EST. So Upward Sports is likely a name that you have heard, likely a name you are familiar with. But what they do is they use sports as a bridge into your community. We hear it all the time at Church Answers. How can my church reach the community? How can my church know the community? What can we do to get into the community? Well, Upward is the world's largest Christian youth sports organization. They will come alongside of your church to help you advance your mission and promote Jesus by using sports ministry as a tool. They are really, really good at what they do. They, like Churchteams, are best in class, and I absolutely encourage you to go check out upward.org/church answers. Again, upward.org/church answers. Every church can have a recreation ministry, not just churches with gyms. They will work with any. If you got a parking lot, you can do recreation ministry. So thank you, Upward, for sponsoring the show. Thank you, Churchteams, for sponsoring the show. And thank you, listeners. You are why we do this. We love giving you good content so that you can be a better pastor, better leader in your church. So we'll see you on the next episode. Got a really good episode about finances coming up. So you'll just have to tune in then. So we'll see you there.
I can't wait.
Upward Sports equips churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. Whether you're a sports fanatic or on staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry that allows you to reach families in your community. Upward Sports offers basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball through league and camp offerings. At Upward Sports, we want to help your church make a difference and give you increased opportunities to share the gospel. Learn more today at upward.org/churchanswers.